And here we go. Let's see. I think my audio is working. Yeah, I see my audio right here. Put this over here. So, good evening, everyone. If you're here with me this evening, good evening. I'm trying something really different tonight. Right now, I am streaming. Okay, first of all, I'm on TikTok Live, first off. But at the same time, I'm streaming through Restream.io to YouTube, to Twitch, and where else? YouTube, Twitch, and something else. I don't remember what the other one is. Wait a minute. What am I? I'm tripping here. What am I streaming to? Facebook. So YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So so this is very interesting because usually I'm only able to do one thing, either do TikTok or do the other platforms through Restream. But this evening, I am just going to sit here and go through my comments. So what's interesting about this whole entire thing? So for those of you who are wondering where I've been on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, is I'll be honest with you, I needed a break. I've been creating so much content on YouTube and then on the other platforms throughout the whole entire pandemic, and with the podcast and then the family talk and everything I was doing and the teacher tech talk as well. It was just so much. And then towards the end of the school year, graduation and everything else, I just got exhausted. And then not only that, I was working remotely for the better part of the pandemic, and now I'm back in the building. So getting up early in the morning at 4:30, 4:45 to get to the gym, then from the gym to get to school, it's a lot, because then what ends up happening is that I'm just tired. I'll be honest with you, I'm just tired. However, what's funny is with TikTok, I don't know why, TikTok is just addicting. I had TikTok for a while. I just never used it. I'll be honest with you, I never used TikTok. I was just kind of like, I would go through the feeds and get lost in there. But creating content was just not. I just didn't think it was something I wanted to do on TikTok. Then what ended up happening is I created a video doing Veterans Day for the because I from the Marine Corps. I had my time in the Marine Corps, so I wanted to shout out the Marine Corps birthday and Veterans Day. So I created a video, posted it, and for me personally, it went viral. In my brain, I had like 1,000 views, and it kept on going to like 2,000, and I was just like, what's going on here? And it was my first time where I was like, okay, something amazing here is happening. And let me see if I can find it. That video, which was my first video on TikTok, it's at 15K right now. But you have to think about this. For me personally, it was like a big deal. I wasn't doing it. I just made this little video on my iPhone, kind of like shouting out the Marine Corps and boot camp, going to boot camp, and at that point it had gotten to like about, I think at the zenith at that time, it got to like 5,000 views, and I was like, yo, I'm the man. And that was it. I didn't do anything else for a while, and I think I was just bored because I had gotten burnt out from creating content on the other spaces. So those of you, if you go to my YouTube channel, you will see I have a whole lot of content there, especially as coming from education, technology, sneakers. My username is Sneaker Principal. I would say I'm probably one of the top 5 sneaker games in the country when it comes to principles, and I'll stand by that. Ray, what's up? Thank you so much. And yeah, I was creating content for those spaces, YouTube, Facebook, even LinkedIn, because a lot of the things I was creating was around just what I'm passionate about. Again, education, the family, sneakers, and then after getting kind of burnt out and needing a break, and just messing with TikTok, I was like, let me see TikTok. And you know what happened was Instagram. They made me actually try TikTok even more. But on Instagram, those Instagram Reels, I was seeing a lot of people using TikTok to create their content for Reels. So I was like, let me play with this. And I made a couple of videos. Then I came across the fact that I just wasn't in the creative mode of like creating original content. But I was doing so much of that. If you go to my YouTube channel, you're going to see I have a whole lot of content there. But I started doing something that I thought was kind of cool for me, which was looking at the videos that I like to indulge in, like the things that I lose myself in, and kind of repurposing them. Because I noticed on TikTok a lot of people were repurposing videos. So I started looking for videos about things having to do with school, with kids, teachers, classrooms, and I started posting that. And I posted a video. The video is about this blind kid, this kid in the classroom who goes over the teacher for not teaching. And I remember I had seen that video a couple of years back, and I came across it. So I just kind of screen recorded it and just posted it on TikTok. And that video went to like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 views. Now it's at like 7. It's like at 7,600 views. And I was like, oh snap, okay. Then I found another video that, again, I'd seen years ago that I really enjoyed. It was a video of the teacher who shut down a class. The kids two boys about to fight, and he just verbally shut the class down. I posted that video, and all of a sudden, it was like 500, 200, 300. And then one day, it started going crazy. And literally, I watched the video hit like 100,000 views in about 15 minutes. And I was like, yo, what's going on here? And it finally stopped and rested at 1.7 million views. And I was like, oh, snap. And from that point, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to find the things that motivates me and gets me thinking and gets me kind of like observing the world, from my lens as an educator. So those of you who've been following my TikTok, that's what I'm doing. I'm posting things that move me. I'll be honest with you. I'm a man's man, but I'm also a man's man that gets emotional. So I like content that makes me think. I love content that hits me in the heart. So that's what I've been doing. I've been finding content that I can repurpose to get people talking, to get people thinking, to get people even emotional, because I feel like in a good way. Because I feel a lot of people are just so caught up in nonsense and fluff. But what's been interesting, though, is that in my comments, some of the stuff that I see in my comments is kind of crazy, because people going in at each other, and I don't know. I won't lie. I've seen some things I've seen some comments that really disturbed me, like when I see people like that one video, the video that when my first video went viral, where it's about I think I titled it "Strong Black Man in the Classroom," and people got mad at the fact that I said "strong black man in the classroom." I was confused about that, because I'm seeing a black man like me in the classroom doing something I don't see done often. Because 2% of all teachers in America are black men. Only 2% of all teachers in public schools in America. 2%. 2% of all black men in the country in education, teaching in classroom, are black men. So to see a black man in a classroom is tough enough to begin with. But however, to actually see a strong black man in the classroom, that is something that is super, super duper rare. How do I know this? Because I've been teaching for 16 years, and every year I come across someone or some kid who tells me, or some parent that tells me that I'm either the first teacher. I mean, at this point in time, that I was the first teacher, the first dean, and the first assistant principal. And now to this day, I still get, you're the first principal I've ever had who's black. And I think that's weird. That's weird to me. That's really weird to me. So I'm like, I grew up in, first of all, I grew up in LA. So those of you who are like, you're a New York principal, you don't sound like you're from New York. Then it's funny, but people from LA tell me I don't sound like I'm from LA, but that's another story. I grew up in LA. I grew up in Inglewood, California. I went to Inglewood High School. My principal was black. I think all my assistant principals, except for one, Mr. Valach, everybody else was black. My gym teachers were black. There were some white teachers there, but the vast majority of teachers that I had were black. Black English teachers, black math teachers. Mr. Searles, now Dr. Searles. Mr. Nolan was white, but he was dope. He was my algebra teacher and algebra 2 teacher. But for the most part, all my teachers were all black. So for me, the whole notion of and not only that, I grew up, my early life was in Nigeria. So in Nigeria, all my teachers were black. I mean, that was literally all my teachers were black. There was no option of having anything other than that. So when I came here, I ended up going to middle school at La Tijera, then high school at Inglewood High. My mind frame was not one that questioned the possibility of not having a black teacher. So when I went to college, that was the first time I had all white teachers or professors, and that was something I had to get used to. And so when I became an educator, and I realized, and I became an educator, and I moved to New York to become a teacher, and I realized, oh snap, we are rare. Like, we are super duper rare. You know, I would go to school. I've worked in schools where my first school, I think there was like 3 black staff members, 3. I've worked in schools where literally there were 2 black teachers, and and maybe I was the administrator, and so that's something that's something that I'm understanding that to be very common. Let me see here. The Mondo, thank you so much. Raiders for show, you know, Raider Nation. As a matter of fact, I have my Raiders collection behind me. You got to represent for the Raiders. Plus, not only that, I'm original Raiders. Actually, technically I'm not original, but Oakland, LA, back to Oakland, and Vegas. Those are all my spots right there. So Raider Nation for show. Oh, I gotta find them. You said, Mondo, you said there's another strong black teacher on this TikTok. He does wrestling intros. Yo, please hit me up, message me his username, so I could definitely check out his content. Ray, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm just trying to be positive, focus on positivity. There's a lot of negative things out there, and trust me, I consume a lot of content that's really about moving people forward and moving our communities and society forward. But at the same time, as an educator, I have to really think about the possibilities of a world where we're not dealing with all the nonsense that we're dealing with. So thank you so much for that. So you said my sister is a white teacher in a 97% Hispanic school here in SA. I'm thinking San Antonio. That's the first thing that came to mind, San Antonio, in Texas. But listen, I'll tell you this though. My first school I ever worked at in the Bronx. That was the bulk of my career has been in the Bronx here in New York. And my first school was literally, I would say, about 80% Latino, Latinx. So we're talking about Puerto Rican, Dominican, South American, Mexicans, and then everyone, and like Guatemalans, Central Americans, and then I would say about 20% of it was Black, African American, Caribbean, very small percent of African. So it's interesting because even that dynamic was different too. As a Black male, coming from a community, and no, I'm sorry, my high school was, I would say it was 60-40 Black to Hispanic, but still, when I came to the Bronx, my school was vast majority Latino. But what was interesting is that it was never an issue. Like I just blended. It just felt like, I think it's because it's New York, and New York is such a melting pot. So it was cool. The only difficulties I had is when I had ESL students who didn't know the language, but also I saw kids pick up the language really quickly. But that's really cool, just as a teacher. Mando, thank you so much for getting that for me. This is not the Dodgers. Broncos. Listen, I'm not gonna be mad at you for Broncos. That's funny, Mr. Professor 318. My first school that I was the principal of was MS 318. So I'm not gonna forget that, Mr. Professor 318. Actually, I'm gonna write that down, because I know me, if I don't write that down, and as a teacher, I have mad post-its everywhere. Post-its everywhere. Mr. Professor 318. So I'm gonna check that out. San Antonio for sure. Never been to San Antonio, but I've been in Texas. I have family in Houston. Being Nigerian, I have family in Houston for sure, and Dallas. But yeah. So again, Yeah, people getting upset about me saying strong black man. Like that's a and I'll be honest with you. In the beginning, I didn't understand, but the comment section has helped me a lot to see that people are really seriously bugging on race and cultural identity. And I'm one. I tell my students, be proud of who you are. Like I tell my students all the time, be proud of who you are, because at the end of the day, I'm less about nations. I'm less about neighborhoods, but I'm very pro your personal identity and your historical and your heritage. That's something that's very, very important. And unfortunately, I feel like I wish there was more room in schools to allow students to explore who they are in their ancestry. Cougarish, what's up? What's up? And Mondo, I agree with you. Different cultures mixed together is the true meaning of a motley crew, and that's something. And I agree with that. But we're so in the space, and I get it. I get. And some people might say, "Well, you're Nigerian, you don't understand." Listen, I came here as a little kid, and I came up into my manhood in America, and growing up in LA. Trust me, I know more than most people might understand. I grew up in in LA growing up. No one saw me as Nigerian. They saw me as just a black kid. So all the trappings of being a black kid and grew up in LA with LAPD and LA County Sheriffs, I experienced. I've had more guns pulled on me from high school all the way to adulthood in LA. More so in LA than in New York, I'll be honest with you. Even though I've had guns pulled out on me in New York as well. But I'll tell you this about cultural identity. It's very, very important. I believe that kids do better when they're role models that they hear and understand and can connect to. Not to say that any particular person couldn't be a good teacher in a classroom, but I'll tell you this though. I know for a fact, like when I started teaching, I was teaching physics, and I remember that my class was all Latino kids. And they were rocking with me. They were cool. They were rocking with me. But I also noticed that, my Latino counterparts, teachers wise, were way more effective than I was, because they can code switch much better than I can. But I couldn't code switch into things that connected with Puerto Rican kids or Dominican kids. But that's not my background. So I had my only space of code switching to was just baseline hood, So I noticed that, and I respected that. The fact that it's that culture is very, very important. So, but a lot of videos I posted, I just see things always get turned back to race. Even though some of the stuff I posted are racially, they have a racial charge to it, because if you choose to take it that way, you can. But I'm seeing people going in at each other, and it's interesting because the comment section on my page is if any of you have been in there, it's kind of crazy sometimes. But I also have to say that I do enjoy the fact that a lot of people also get really emotional, and they really connect to some of the things I post on there. So let me just go through my comments right now to show you some stuff that's hilarious. So Miss Annie Mae posted. She said, "I'm effing dead. This kid is going places." So I posted a video of this. I don't know if you guys saw it. There was a kid who was being detained by a police officer, and the police officer said it was something. The conversation started about the kid getting away with doing nothing, and the kid said to the police officer, "How am I getting away with doing nothing?" And the officer said something like, you got away with doing nothing because nobody would report or give a report on you. And the kid was like, "Wait a minute. So how did I get away with doing nothing? The only way I got away with doing nothing is because I did nothing." And it was funny because I don't think the officer, I don't even know if it was security or whatever, understood what he just said. You literally just said the kid did nothing. So if the kid did nothing, how do you get away with doing nothing? And it's funny, even with that, there's been a lot of people have done duets. Some people have stitched on that video, and I think it's hilarious. But there are people who are getting super tight, who are like, how dare this kid be disrespectful to the police officer? And I get it. I get it. You know, the kid was just being a little mouthy, and trust me, I'm I'm a teacher, I'm a assistant, I'm a principal. I say assistant. I haven't been assistant principal in a while, but I'm a principal, and trust me, over the past 16 years, I've had some kids who just, oh my God, you'd be like, yo, whoa, this kid just shut up. You know, but that's part of being an educator, you know. And if you're going to be an educator, you're going to have to deal with kids, you know, practicing with their voice, trying to find out, trying to test borders, the boundaries to like expand themselves. And I get that. But this kid right here, I'm sorry, I give the kid an A plus. You know, thankfully it was a safe scenario. This cop, I don't know what transpired beyond the 16 seconds of this video, but it seemed like, you know, he wasn't in danger. But the police have to put himself into place by literally saying that the only reason you got away with doing nothing is because nobody would give a report. And the kid heard that and was like, how do I get away with doing nothing? I got away with doing nothing because I did nothing. You know, so this video right now, let me see right now. That video right now is funny because I had stopped paying, I hadn't looked at it in a while. And I think the last time I checked, it's 1.6 million views right now. And it's hilarious. And people really like this video. But but then, like I said, people are going back and forth, arguing about whether or not, you know, this kid is respectful, not respectful. But again, the adult who is there is not using his brain. I'm sorry, you know. And like the Bible says, from the mouth of babes, right? If we are not mature enough to do the right thing, and then guess what's going to happen? We're going to get caught by our children who are going to have to correct this. The next comment on here is from Riffraff 1228, and the comment is, I ate my lunch alone in high school for 3 years. No one would sit with me. I wasn't weird. I just was painfully shy and a lot of anxiety. Man, I wish honestly that I could speak to Riffraff directly right now, because again, I'm gonna read the comment. I ate my lunch alone in high school for 3 years. No one would sit with me. I wasn't weird. I was just painfully shy and a lot of anxiety. I could connect to that in so many ways. The video that I posted was my last video. Is it my last video? No, the second to last video that I posted, and it's a video about a school where no kid eats alone, because one of the students in the school started a club called We Dine Together. I thought it was amazing. It's a pretty large school in Florida, I believe, in Boca Raton, Florida, I believe. And the video, man, first of all, let me tell you this: being an immigrant kid to this country and just not and trying to figure out where you are, not even fit in, because when you first come to a school, you're just trying to figure out where you are. And then imagine being new to the country, language, culture, you know, the way you dress, the way you smell. Not that you smell, like I smell bad. I smell like my house, like my foods, my culture. And it was a scent that was foreign to people. So there's all these factors that just was not on my side. And I remember being in school and literally every day sitting by myself, not talking to anyone really, every day. I remember being in school, especially when I first got here in middle school. Literally, I can go the whole entire day and no one would say anything to me. Maybe a teacher or two. That was normal. And it sucked. It really, really sucked. And for those of you who don't know what that feels like, it's the worst feeling in the world to just be by yourself. And you're watching the world around you and people are talking, having fun, and you're just by yourself. So when I saw that video, it really touched me, because I just remember the loneliness of, like, imagine being in school with all these people and being alone. And then that loneliness turns to if you're already shy. I was already a quiet kid to begin with. I was already shy, so I just became more shy, because I was so nervous that I might say something wrong or do something wrong that would warrant me getting the wrong attention. And then anxiety was for real, because you start to see who's who at school, who the bullies are, and you know if you're quiet or you're seen as weird or different, then obviously you become a target. And I was a little kid. Man, I was like 100 and I was 100 pounds soaking wet for a long time, and I was super short for a long time. And yeah, just hiding, or at least not even. I wasn't even hiding. I was just trying to be invisible. That's what I was trying to do. And so this school where these kids are literally saying that it's not right for any kid in my school to sit by themselves and not be part of the community. And the fact that these are kids who are saying this is so powerful, and I love it. And not only that, this one kid got a whole bunch of kids together and started a club. No one dines alone. No one eats alone. So these kids were during lunchtime, will go out into the ER, into the cafeteria, and find kids who are sitting by themselves and just join them, or try to get them to join a bigger group. Like, how amazing is that? Because we all know, if you went to high school in America, you're going to high school in America right now, you know either you have, or you know that some kid or someone you saw in school who always was by themselves. And maybe you wanted to reach out to them. Maybe you wanted to, but you didn't want to be ostracized by your classmates, or you didn't want to be deemed as weird like they are. You know, I could tell you this, in my school, every kid gets attention. Every kid gets attention. I don't care who you are. I am going to approach you. I'm going to come sit with you. I'm going to come talk with you. And not only that, I always try to push my kids to do the same thing. You know, it's not right for kids to be in school and be disconnected. And I feel like it's really bad. It's a really bad thing where adults are not intentional in making sure that that kids are not alone. You know, if a kid is in the cafeteria and it's lunchtime, it takes nothing for the adult to say, "Hey, how are you doing?" and then have them come sit with someone else, you know, or bring other kids around. So I totally connected to that comment. And Riffraff 120 1228. You know, I hope that your life is amazing now, and your experience in high school is something that that you use to brighten someone else's life. Let's see here. I'm trying to see other comments here. So a lot of people like that video. Another comment here from Latin Madness, Latina Madness says, me as a mother have always worried about my child. I've always worried that my child is one of those sitting alone. So it really means a lot to me. I love it. I don't know. I feel like, you know what? This is what I feel like. You know, like for me, I know I'm very intentional about this. I'm very, very intentional about kids not feeling alone in school. Kids making friends. I think it's very important that as a parent, that you ask your principal, what do you do with kids who are sitting alone in the cafeteria? That's my question. Excuse me. That's my question. What do you do when a kid is sitting there by themselves in the cafeteria? What is there any policy? Is there any clubs? Is there anything? Do you have any kind of intentional actions taken to make sure that all children are included and no child feels left out? Because that's the easiest way to stop bullying or prevent bullying. If you don't do something about that and you just have kids sitting by themselves, then you're literally creating a scenario or situation where kids are going to get targeted. Because those kids who unfortunately don't have the proper grooming on how to treat others, they want to find the weak links, the ones that they can go after. Trust me, I know. I was one of those kids. When I was in middle school, man, I could tell you stories about kids who just targeted and came after me. The one thing though is this: even though I was little, even though I was a lightweight, that African gene is real. That African warrior gene is real. I threw hands. 90% of the time, I got my butt kicked, but I threw hands. You know, like that song, you know, try Jesus, don't try me. Just, I will use these hands. And it's funny though, because I always got my butt kicked. I always got my butt kicked. But because I was little. But the thing is, for kids who just are easy to target, It's a real problem. It's a real problem, and I think it's very important as a parent, if you feel like your child is a quiet, shy, has anxiety, whatever the case is, that you talk to you talk to the principal, you talk to the guidance counselors, and ask them like what is in place at your child's school to make sure that they're being socialized in the right manner, so they're part of the community and not disengaged, because that can cause a lot of problems. Especially like shy kids tend to not talk to anyone. They keep things to like we keep things to ourselves. I say we because I'm still a shy person to this day, even though my students would tell you who in joke was shy, or even my staff. But that was my personality trait. I'm not one to want to be like loud and social and things like that. And I know that the longer that I stayed in that space where I wasn't connecting with anyone, then I just kind of like fell deeper and deeper and deeper into this quiet space, and my anxiety got out of hand. So it's very important that we make sure that kids are being engaged. Let me see here. Another video that actually did really, really well, and I still get comments on, is my video that I posted. Let me see if I can find it. It was about a month ago now. I want to say probably less than a month ago. The video I posted was let me see if I can find it. It was a clip from Undercover Boss. And in that video, here we go. That video has 5.4 million views. And in that video, it's the video from where the owner, or one of the owners, CEOs of Modell Sporting Goods in New York City, went undercover at one of their stores, and he was so impressed by one of his department managers, and in the conversation found out that she had been living in a shelter with her kids and just trying to make ends meet, and he was so touched that he gave her an increase, a pay increase, a promotion. They, I think, gave her like $250,000 to buy a home, and give her $250,000 to do whatever she wanted to do with it, to buy a home or whatever the case is, and also attach a financial planner to it as well. And that was something that was really moving, because when he told her about it, she literally fell out of her chair and was sobbing and was so grateful and in praise, and he was bawling himself as well. So it's one of those videos that literally I can watch over and over again, because this is the stuff we hope that we are able to do for others and people do for us when we're in need, especially in a world where the haves have, and there's so few haves, so few haves, and the have-nots are the vast majority, like 99% are the have-nots, and it's so rare to see and have step down from that pedestal to help a have-not. And so it's one of those things that gives you hope that possibly there's something good out there, that there's still some good out there. Let me see here. Yeah, that video has been doing really well. Somebody again about the video about the video about the We Dine Together. Somebody commented, that empty void filled with friendship, and that's what it is. When you're by yourself in school and you're not connecting with anyone, you're just there by yourself. It is an empty void. It is a space that you're just craving for somebody to fill. Again, I'll say this: like, we don't send our kids to school to not be engaged in some capacity with people. We do send our kids to school to get an education. We do get our kids to school to learn, but to have our kids be in school and just be by themselves, that's not a good look. It's really not a good look. And that's something that schools got to do better at. We can't just be like, okay, when a kid becomes, starts to show like, starts to show issues, behavioral issues, then we address. No, we should from the jump do whatever we can to ensure that students are fine, and socialization is a big part of it. Somebody else here. So that was Rudolph 7264 that talked about the empty void filled with friendship. Then Nick Kim said, excellent. Every middle school and high school should be doing this, and I agree with that. As far as making sure there's intentional space for kids to connect with each other. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you this: when I was in military school, I did go to military school in Nigeria. It was a boarding school, and the whole notion of eating by yourself was non-existent, because in military school we all ate together with each other by our room assignments. So like we had one big room that had I think we had about 6 of us in that room, and the 6 of us during dinner time we all sat at the same table. So not socializing or not being engaged or being by yourself was super rare. If anything, in military school I wanted to be by myself, but it was just created, and that environment was created for socialization and to also build a sense of family and team. And I think schools can do it. Boarding schools do it all the time. Because you have to live there, and it does the school good to make sure that kids are socializing the right way. So again, that video got a lot of comments. There's another video I posted about a custodian, and that's my last video, about a custodian who has been this custodian has for years, I think it was something like 25, 30 years, has been counseling kids, like especially young men, pulling them to the side, talking to them about not going to class or doing dumb stuff. And so many kids over the years have just seen him as a father figure, or someone who's been responsible for their success in life or staying in the right direction. And it's a really powerful story. I thought it was so great. And Sylvia Price said they should give him a counselor's job based on life experience. And it's funny because I think that is something that is so true. I know so many people who they don't have the college degrees, they don't have the master's degrees, they don't have the PhDs, but they have wisdom. They have tremendous amount of wisdom, and that wisdom translates to being able to, how do I put this? Engage others in ways that goes beyond what you read in the book. And I think that's why in this story about this gentleman, the custodian at the school, is so powerful, because he's talking to the kids based on experience. His experience as a man who's lived, but then his experience as someone who's also connected with young people over the years. And that experience is what he's been pouring into his kids, the kids in the school. And again, I think it's so powerful. And the other thing too is this: something that I believe that is lacking so much in society right now. And I mentioned this before in my last, I think it was my last live, the fact that we don't respect our elders. We don't welcome our elders into our space. We see older people, and we say they're old, they don't know what they're talking about, they're out of touch, out of date. And it's funny because I'm always shocked by that. Maybe it's because also culturally being West African, your elders, your ancestors, are valuable. They're at the core of who we are. And when I see spaces where literally, how do I put this? Literally, I'm trying to figure out the best way to put this. Spaces where we literally ignore older people because they're older. In this school, this custodian is being cherished for his experience. He's being cherished for his wisdom. Even the principal and the members of the community encourage him to participate in counseling young people, having those one-on-one conversations, because him as a father figure, him as an elder, there's a way he can talk to young people that's going to make them stop and really think, versus maybe people that might be closer to their age, or people who might not fit the societal mode of someone they would respect. Like, we all tend to respect our grandparents. Something about Pop and Nana that sometimes supersedes our own parents. And I really believe when you come across older people who have that experience, when you see them, you can tell they've been around the block a couple of times, they've lapped you a couple of times, that you want to hear from them. You want to hear what their perspective is, because you're hoping that you might get something out of it that can do your life well. And again, like this man, this fact that the school is so intentional I've allowed him to be a voice in the life of students. I think it's so wonderful. Truth Teller 53 says, so powerful his soul is, he'll have one of the most beautiful mansions in heaven. And I agree with that. I really agree with that. He's planting so many seeds in young people, and that's again something that we need to do better. We need to create spaces where we allow our elders to speak more to us and our young people. Wow, here's a comment. And again, it's about the we down alone. We dine together. I'm sorry, we dine together. So Tammy Moritz 0 says, how do we find out more about this? I'm a middle school student council sponsor and would love to implement this at my school. And it's funny because I don't think there's anything about finding out about it. I think it's just doing it. Like, this is one of those things you don't have to overthink. Don't overthink it. Literally, if you see something like a program like this, where it's not a curriculum, it's literally kids who are saying, okay, I want to be part of making sure that no one in my school sits alone for lunch or whatever the case may be. So it's literally as easy as saying, okay, who wants to be part of this club? What's the mission of this club? Our mission is to make sure that no kid in this school doing lunch sits alone, that doesn't want to sit alone. And if they are sitting alone, that we try to find out why they're sitting alone, to make sure that that we can really have them be part of the community. And once you do that, you just tell kids, all right, go walk around and talk to each other, talk to kids, and that's all it takes. It doesn't require anything special. Actually, it requires the bravery of heart to say, at my school, no child is going to feel lonely or be alone. Let's be honest, let's call it what it is. It's that simple. Listen, adults, those of you who are listening right now, you know what I'm talking about. But there's still some of us till this day as adults. We go to a function, we go to a party. What do? We'll wallflowers. Or what we do is we find the bar and we start drinking to get that courage alcohol, the alcohol courage. We do that. But the thing is this: what we're exercising as adults, what we're expressing as adults in our shyness and our social awkwardness, is something from our childhood that could have been addressed early on. But when you go to school and you're sitting by yourself and you're not, and you can't, and no one's talking to you, and you go through this every day, day in, day out, the whole entire school year, maybe 2 years, 3 years, or maybe through all of high school, there are kids out there who were alone from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. And I ask myself, what kind of damage does that do to a child's psyche? What kind of adult do they become when the whole understanding of the universe or the world is that no one likes me, no one wants to talk to me, no one wants to be my friend? That's crazy, Let me see here. JJ Joseph 2626 says, "Oh my God, that is so sweet. That takes me back from middle school, high school." Yeah, I thank you for sharing that. And that's one thing. Like, what I hate when people say middle school is the worst years. And I'll tell you, when I was in middle school, those were the most difficult years, and it didn't have to be. Here's a school where the kids themselves are saying, "Hey, we're gonna make sure that no kid here eats by themselves during lunch." That's so powerful. And again, those of you who are asking, how can we do this in my school? Just do it. Literally, just do it. Yeah. I'll tell you how you start. What you do is you tell all the teachers to stop being bums, get out the teacher's lounge, and during lunchtime, take your lunch, go out into the yard, go into the cafeteria, and find a kid and sit with them and have lunch with them as an adult. I did that for years. I still do it to this day. Let me tell you what happens. I go to the cafeteria. I go get my lunch, and then first of all, the kids are like, "Yo, mister, you gonna eat this?" I'm like, "Yep, I'm the principal. If it's good enough for you, it's great for me." And I will go and I'll intentionally find a kid sitting by themselves that's quiet. or not, just not with everybody else, and sit with them. Hey, what's up? And usually what happens, their eyes are like, the principal is sitting with me. And I'll just sit down with them, yo, what's going on? What you doing? What's happening? We start chatting. And if they're not talking, I'll ask them about their family, about them, how's school going, the teachers. Sometimes I'll be like, yo, you got Mr. So-and-so? What'd you think about Mr. So-and-so? Yo, I heard he's kind of tough. What do you think? And then all of a sudden we're sparking conversation. And guess what happens? Other kids see this and they want to come and find out what's the principal talking about with this person. And one kid comes and sits with us, another kid comes and sits with us, and we're all talking and they're laughing. And the kid who was sitting by themselves at first, all of a sudden becomes automatically popular because, the principal was sitting with this kid. But I got one caveat: you can't be whack. I'm sorry. As a teacher, as a assistant principal, as a dean, as a principal, you can't be whack. You have to do some personality. Don't go over there and go sit with the kid and be quiet with them. They're quiet eating, looking at you. You're quiet eating, looking at them, and nothing's being said. Guess what? It would have been better for you not to even approach this kid, because now they're thinking to themselves, not only am I weird, you're weird too. And two weird people don't really want to be around each other, especially if there's nothing to say. So it's very important that if you're trying to create a space in your school where kids are especially shy kids who are dealing with anxiety, kids who are quiet, kids who are sitting by themselves, that get the adults to just go do it. Listen, I worked at a school once, a middle school, where the principal encouraged teachers to take kids. But this is New York City, so across the street there was a pizza shop, stuff like that. He would be like, I encourage you, let me know, and you can take the kid across the street, go ahead, sit down, have a pizza with them. Create a space where you get to know a kid. Like kids who are having problems in class, behavioral issues, whatever the case is, kids who are quiet. You create scenarios where you start to establish rapport. But I'll tell you this, the easiest way to do it is literally go get your lunch, go to the cafeteria, go into the yard, find a kid and sit with them. And talk. Just talk. And if they're not saying anything, then you talk. Okay? You talk, try to be interesting, but better yet, ask them questions about themselves. How you're doing, what's going on with you, and just create that space for them. And I'm telling you, you will see kids blossom. I have kids, listen, it's never failed me. 16 years of doing this. Okay, started when all this was all black. And just engaging students in that capacity, I've seen kids all of a sudden who were selective mutes be the biggest mouths ever, just talking. Because all of a sudden they've been allowed to be themselves. And if you can be yourself with the principal, trust me, you can be yourself with your friends or with other kids, and you can establish friendships. Here's another comment. Pamela Kelly says, what a great idea. I felt alone in high school too. Like, come on. That really bothers me. Because I know there's so many kids who still, like, these are adults who are saying this. And think about all the kids now. Again, parents, ask your school, what are you guys doing? What do you do to make sure? Because I know for a fact there's a lot of parents out there who worry about their children. One of the comments I read was a parent who says, my child is shy. My child is a quiet kid. And I worry about them in school. And it's funny because there's another video I posted where, again, same thing. It was a kid who was constantly by themselves, and kids from student council. And this was just the kids from student council who made a choice at that moment in time to go approach this kid and say, hey, come sit with us. We don't want this kid to be by themselves. Great kids do that automatically, but that's just how they're built. That's how they've been raised. But often, I'm not trying to say, no, I don't take that back. I don't say great kids. There are kids out there who are raised that way, and it's been built into them, like, always do good. But most kids are not, it doesn't come that easy. Because if it's not something that's already, part of the culture of their community and their school, they don't want to do something different. So they're not linked to that thing that they fear, the kid who's by themselves, the unpopular kid. So it's very important that schools, again, intentionally say, here at this middle school, here at this high school, we are welcoming. What does welcoming look like? No one is everybody themselves. What does that look like? What does that sound like? What does that feel like? Creating advisory programs that teaches kids kindness and building community is very, very important, because that child who is not being connected with grows up to be often maladjusted adult. You know, it took me a while to, as an adult, like I used to have a lot of anxiety speaking in public because I never spoke as a kid. I just was be quiet. And I'll tell you what brought me out of my shell: becoming a teacher. You know, then I was the dean, and it's funny because even as a dean, if I had to speak to the cafeteria or at in the auditorium, my heart would start beating out of my chest. You would think, as the dean, and not mind you, now I'm not 100 pounds. I'm not under 5 feet. I'm 5'9". I walk 190, 200 pounds. Right now, I have the COVID weight, so I'm about 220. You know, but I'm working on that. But still, I'm a big guy. You know, I ended up playing college football. You know, I am a big dude. You know, for my height, and people are often say that I'm intimidating, but I would walk into that stage to talk to my students, and my palms would be sweating. I'd be getting lightheaded. My chest be beating. My heart be beating out of my chest. That anxiety would kick in. But a lot of that had to do with, you know, my fear of public spaces, my fear of being targeted, my fear of being just, drawing the wrong attention. These are all the things that I was so scared and nervous about as a child. And because it was never dealt with as an adult, I struggled with it. But luckily, I picked the right profession, because after a while, you know, of talking to people, walking to classrooms, talking to kids in the hallway and outside, the parents, I started to get over that anxiety, you know, and it still happens to this day. So you can see my the beginning of my graduation speech this year. I posted that here as well, and if you see that, you would think, okay, he's pretty well. Nah, if you pay attention closely, a lot of deep breaths, a lot of struggles to get words out, because it's one of those things that never leaves you. You know, that anxiety and that fear of like public speaking, it doesn't leave you, but it's ingrained in you as a child. But I'm much stronger, I'm so much more capable of controlling my space now. I'm so much more capable of walking into public arenas and speaking and not being fearful. However, sometimes I wonder if my schools had been more intentional as far as making sure that I was given voice and I was trained and I got over my anxiety and shyness, where would I be right now? Maybe I might be president. I couldn't be president. I wasn't born in America. Maybe I could be Secretary of State. No. I could have been something. I could have been a contender. Put like that. I could have been a contender if my school had been more forthright in making sure that me and other kids who were shy and quiet were not always alone, but were being included into the community. It says, another comment here, Moosey Puff 66 says, these young men and women who are in this club give me so much hope. The young man who started this club is a spectacular human. Yeah? Yeah, but again, he just set the example for what anyone can do. He just had the courage to see it through. And he definitely has to get kudos for that. Another comment from the same video, having to do with the No One Dies Alone. 9 different high schools and in foster care. I wish this was going on. That's from Blessed Faith 74. First of all, yeah. Again, I pray the adults who are speaking on this and their experience as children and as young people who went through being alone and not being included and feeling and being an outsider. I hope that you're in a good space now and you're living your best life. But again, I blame the adults. I blame society for creating spaces, or at least not being intentional in making sure, like especially school is a space where there's intentional that the adults, the principals, whoever is in charge, is intentional in pulling young people in, and not just being like, okay, she's shy, he's shy, or he's just a loner. Again, nobody wants to be a loner. Think about that. I never understood that. Alone. Nobody really wants to be alone. Sometimes you want to be left alone, but nobody wants to truly be alone. And often, those who become used to being alone is because they've always been alone. And it becomes safer to be alone than to be with other people because If you've never been able to trust people to be with you and not have you be alone, then you just choose to be like, okay, the devil I know is better than the angel that I don't know. So people would choose to be alone, especially children. You see here, man, another comment. Praxis Kathy says, my son was bullied at lunch. I feel like this would have helped him. I agree. I remember my first fight in school, my first fight in middle school here in America. Excuse me. I was in the cafeteria. Because this is a really good story. So mind you, here I am I was like probably about 5 feet tall, probably 5'1", 110 pounds max. So I go to the cafeteria window, and lunch was always weird for me. Because I was super new to the country. Going to the lunch window, the foods were still things I was getting used to. Mind you, this was 6th grade. So I've already lived a majority of my life in an African household. We lived in Nigeria, we lived in Saudi. So I know Arab foods, I know Nigerian foods. The extent of what I knew about American food was maybe pizzas and hamburgers. But like, you give me fish sticks, and I'll be like, what is that? Fish sticks. I'm like, fish don't look like that, Or you'd give me like mashed potatoes, and I was like, what is that? And with gravy. Gravy weirded me out. So I was like, why is it brown, and why does it smell like that? Because it's something I wasn't used to. So I'm going to the cafeteria window. The cafeteria lady gives me my tray, and I think it was like corn on. This is back in the day when they would literally scoop it on you. I'm old. You scoop the vegetables on your tray and everything. So you had a tray with food on it. So I knew it was like the corn, mashed potatoes, the gravy. And I think it was? It was a Thanksgiving menu because I came to America in November. So I think it was like the theme of the month. And I got my tray. To mind you, I'm a little short guy, oversized clothing, book bag. But when you're poor, your parents buy you clothes that are always big. So if you're poor, your kid, I don't know about anybody else, parents will always tend to buy bigger clothes so you can grow into them. So my clothes I was really swimming in my clothes in my 80s, but this was 1988, to my 80s-ish colorful ski jacket. I look like a clown. So I had my tray, my big backpack, and I'm walking. And the cafeteria is just full of kids, and it's super noisy in there. And it's funny how names you never forget. So this person, his name was Dexter. First name was Dexter for real. I'm not gonna say his last name. I'm gonna say Dexter Jackson. His name was Dexter Jackson. That's not his real last name. But Dexter, I just remember seeing him, and I didn't know him. I didn't know his name, but I just remember seeing this kid laughing. And how it's funny how something bad is about to happen because you can see, especially in school, you can see people are laughing, and it just feels like the laughter is calling you, is drawing you. Your brain is like, your spidey senses are like, okay, that laughter is about me. Okay, so I had my tray, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna, and it was over my shoulders. I looked over my shoulders, I'm laughing, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take my tray, and I think I was turning to the right to walk towards the table, and I would always try to find a table that was empty enough that I could be all the way at the end by myself, So I turn around, and all of a sudden, pow! Mashed potatoes and corn all up on my shirt, in my face, everywhere, and everybody's dying. So what happened was Dexter thought it would be funny as hell to slap the tray from under me, right into my face. So I had mashed potatoes, I had corn on me, and again, I was no punk. I was little. I was shy. I was, there was anxiety there because I was new to the space. But definitely, JJ Joseph, thank you he said, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And Candace says, I sound like a narrator. If you only knew my story and how I stuttered all through my childhood. But thank you, though. I really appreciate that. But yeah, so he hit the tray, food everywhere. And you remember Bobby Boucher, Waterboy, where he was screaming, ah! That was me. I just went, ah! And Dexter was probably about 5'6", so he was considerably taller than me. I was like probably like 5'1", and I ran through him, and this kid gave me what's his name, and a Jorge Masvidal, 2-piece and a soda, clunk clunk, and I was like, okay, yeah, you're gonna keep hitting me, but I'm gonna get mine. I don't know how I'm gonna get mine, so I'm throwing punches. I know he's hitting me, and I'm just throwing punches. I don't know what I'm hitting. Eventually, the school safety officers came and separated us, and go to the principal's office. But yeah, that was like cafeteria for me. And after that day, I just stopped eating in the cafeteria completely. I stopped eating, literally, because for me, it was just not safe to be in the cafeteria. My safety couldn't be guaranteed. It wasn't even like safety; it was just my mental safety. Like I didn't want to have to worry. And plus, it's a cafeteria, so many kids from every direction. So if I couldn't get my lunch and go straight outside, what I would do is I would ask my mom. I would take my lunch money, and if my mom sometimes would give me extra money, and I would just buy chips and a soda before I got to school. And this is back in the day, for $1, like $1.50, you could buy a bag of chips and a soda, a big bag of chips, and I just have that in my bag, and that was my nutrition through middle school. Because I was like, I'm not trying to be in the cafeteria because I didn't want to be fighting. And it was interesting because unlike New York City, in California, schools are campuses. So I can be all the way in the backyard, in the back field, and nobody will bother me as long as I heard the bell. And it's funny because school safety or school security didn't patrol. Yeah, I used to be out in the cut by myself. Period. If something happened to me, or if I was like suicidal ideation or something like that, nobody would know. But yeah, that was weird. Like, now that I think about it, but now as a principal, I'm like, nah, we gotta know where every child is at all times. But yeah, that's what I did. I just kind of like, I came up with my system. I just avoided the cafeteria, and but it didn't stop. I still got into fights. Again, but a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was just quiet, and people thought because I was quiet that I was an easy target. Yeah, I wish I had been different. But I'll tell you this though. Did I go through all school like that? No, I didn't. Because what ended up happening is I ended up going, when I get to high school, my freshman year, I finally figured it out. Because mind you, I got to America in 1988. I was in 6th grade, so it was like November. Then the worst thing that happened to me was that not only did I was new to the country, 6th grade, I got tested about 2-3 weeks after I got here and found out that my academic level, not intelligence, because I don't think I'm average at best. It's just that I was coming from another country, and what I knew content-wise put me in the 8th grade. So they asked my father whether or not how he felt about me being moved to the 8th grade. Mind you, from 6th to 8th, November 1988. I think about like December, I was now in the 8th grade, and my father said yes. Being a proud African man, said, "Of course, my child, of course. Yes, move him. He's brilliant. Move him to 8th grade. He's brilliant." And yeah, I was in 8th grade. So mind you now, the kids who were messing with me, most of the bullies were in the 8th grade. So now all of a sudden, here I am sitting in class with Dexter Jackson in the 8th grade. Of course, there were more fights. But I got better at anticipating fights. I was one of those kids. Listen, I would weaponize anything. A textbook was a weapon. Because I'm little, so I'm gonna find a way. My backpack was a weapon. I was gonna find a way to get an advantage, But I'll tell you what my biggest advantage is. And kids, if you listen to this, they ignore me. But I learned very quickly that because I was short, I had a low center of gravity, and I was able to pick heavy things up really well. So I learned early on that I can get you off your feet. So I would literally go for your feet, pick you up, body slam you to the ground, and I didn't matter how tall you were. If we were on the ground together, it was even fight for me. So that's how I fought. Yeah. Thank God I don't fight anymore. I'm a principal now. We don't do that. Cyrena Welch, 2 says, I wish you were around when I was a kid. I sat alone at 32 different schools. Wow. 32 different schools. This is beautiful. Much love. What's going on here? Yes, you gotta do what you gotta do. Self-defense. Very true. Very, very true. Yeah, it's funny because I tell kids don't fight, but one thing is this: if you have to defend yourself, you have to protect yourself. You're not gonna stand there and be hurt. But I tell kids avoid fights at all costs. But if you have to defend yourself. But just know, in defending yourself, there might be consequences that you might have to deal with because you defended yourself. But often, I won't say it's worth it, but I would say it's worth, not becoming a victim and being terribly hurt. That's one thing I would say that. A lot of people might not agree with me as a principal saying like, you should encourage kids to fight. I don't like kids fighting. But even worse, I don't like seeing kids who are hurt, who are like hurt. I can tell you some stories about kids who were brutalized, and because other kids just went in. And I had one situation that in my career where a kid was literally beat bloody. And the kid was a 9th grader, and the kid who did the beating was an 11th grader, and it was so atrocious. I'll tell you this: the 9th grader who got beat up, his father was one of the biggest drug dealers in that community at the time. So, yeah, the kid who did the beating had to leave the country. Let's leave it at that. It was that bad. Melrick, 202. 2002. Where am I from? I am originally where am I from? Right now, I'm in New York. Grew up in Los Angeles, and my family's originally from Nigeria. No, I'm originally from Nigeria. I was born in Nigeria, and I grew up in a Nigerian household. So, and yes, kids can be cruel, but often their kids' cruelty is a result of the adults who've planted that cruelty in them. Kids are only going to mimic what they see. They're going to only. That's something I learned a long time ago. Kids literally are just reflection of their environment, and often reflection of their parents and their family members. And that's something that that's one of the things that makes what I do very, very hard. There's been so many children that I've had to convince that what their parents are telling them is not right. And I've had parents who've come to me and says, my child told me that you said. And my response had been like, I tell your child opposite of what you're telling them, because what you're telling them is going to land them in prison. What you're telling them is going to get them really hurt. And I know you love your child and you try to protect them, but it's also my responsibility as an officer of the state, as a principal, to make sure your child doesn't do anything here that you tell them to do that's going to get them locked up or possibly get you locked up, as an accessory. So, yeah. But that cruelty is often because they're mimicking what their parents see. They're mimicking what they see from home and in their communities. And it's a battle. There's often those things in the communities, they're not necessarily wrong, but they're wrong at the same time because what has been normalized started as something that didn't have to be that way, but became that way, and now everybody just does it. So when you try to tell somebody like that, doing this is wrong, it's hard for them to accept that because it's what everyone does. So that's something that has been a big part of my what I do as in my school community is really establishing our own school culture and our own expectations within my school. For me, I am a tyrant. I am a positive tyrant, but for me, it's in my school, it's the Njoku way, and the Njoku way is not the street way. You keep the street way in the streets, but my goal is to make sure by the time I'm done with you, when you're in the streets, you're gonna make better decisions, and you're gonna walk away from all the nonsense, so you can live to be successful. You can live to have a family. You can live to attain your dreams, and not just be stuck in a space because this is what everybody does. Melrick, you're right. We are a part of our environment. I also think that it takes a village to raise the children. So, can I just deconstruct in a very positive way. The whole notion of it takes a village. So we need to establish some villages, because we don't have villages. We have very few true villages. Like when you're, let's put it like this: when you're with your family, your extended family, your aunt, your cousins, your siblings, your grandparents, your parents, and these people who all group under the same culture and norms of being within household or your family community, that is a village. When I hear village, I think about like the village that my family is from. My mother's village, my father's village in Africa. My father's village, literally, they've been in the same land for thousands of years. And people are normalized on how we behave, how we treat each other, and what we expect from each other within our village. My mom's village, same thing, but also a little bit different expectations because, they're their own people. So in that village, guess what? Every child is beholden to aunties, uncles, grandparents, grandmothers, cousins, and all that. So that's a village, right? And even people in your village might not be blood relatives, but you've been around each other for generations, so it's all family. But in America, when we say village, I ask myself, what is the village? Because our neighborhoods are not village. And people want to say it takes a village, and I look at that, I'm like, but our neighborhoods are not villages. I'll tell you why. How many of you right now would agree with me on this? The majority of neighbors, you don't even know who they are. Like, you might see their faces, you might know their names, but you don't know what they do. Everybody kind of lives in their own spaces. If you see a child in your building, in your neighborhood, do something wrong, if you try to scold them, you gotta be careful, because that parent might wild out and be like, "That's my child," right? That's not village. So the thing with villages is that I agree, it takes a village, but we are so far removed from being family. Once upon a time, because of circumstances, communities were like families. Mr. Johnson down the block, and my father went to school, went to high school together 30, 40 years ago. They've known each other all their lives. Their parents knew each other. They were in the same church, the same, clubs, or whatever the case may be. So with all that, you had a sense of family, extended family, even with people who are not your blood. We don't have that anymore. We don't have that anymore, but we need to reestablish that. And I'll tell you this is what I believe. The one place that you can really do this is the school. Within the school building, you can create that. Where do most of kids find their best friends? In school. How many parents out there become friends with other parents because their children are friends? How many parents eventually find another parent and say, "Hey, I'm going to put you on my child's blue card because we've become friends, and if there's an emergency, But imagine if school could really be like that across the board, where every parent in that school decided that this is our community, this is our village. I had the same vested interest in my child, in your child, on all children here as every other person here, and I can trust we all want the same thing for our children. If we did that, guess what would happen? Think about how powerful, because then you wouldn't have failing schools. Because parents would now say, wait a minute, my child's not going to fail, your child's not going to fail. So we're going to go to the district, we're going to go to the state, we're going to go to the mayor and demand we have the right resources. We don't have that. What we have is we drop our kids at school and we just hope that they're being educated. At my school, your child's being educated. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not playing that. However, let's be honest here. How many of you look at your kids working and you're like, what's going on? How many of you went to schools where when you walked out, you were like, I didn't learn jack squat. I just got good at pretending. I got good at being in the system so I could get my diploma. But what did I get out of it? How many of you end up going to college and your freshman year in college, you realize that the other kids in your classes are so far ahead of you that you're just trying to survive and make sure that you don't drop out, or at least you don't get found out for being a fraud. Think about that. Thank you. You say you need more people like you in our society. There's a lot of us. We're all people like me, and we're all people like you. We all have the ability to to do what's right for our community. We just have to have the courage, And I'm fortunate that what I do for work, my life's work, puts me in a position to have an impact on society. But we all have the ability to do this. We just have to stand up and say, hey, this is what we need to do to make sure our children and us are going to be good into the future. Things and times have changed where that's concerned. Yeah, things have changed, but I think we can go back there. We think we can go back there because I think everyone's yearning for a space where we can just be truly a community. We can truly do and know that what's being done it's not just for me, but for everyone. But it just requires that we reconnect. You said thinking schools and churches, but even churches, there are churches that is the fact. But usually these are old churches where literally you have generations of pastors in the same church. I'm not talking about one or two generations. I'm talking about where for these churches, it was like my great grandfather's founded this church, and every member of every parishioner here is generational. Then that's where you have a village. But usually those churches tend to be communities where the church extends beyond the church walls. There's a school, there's a pantry, they're involved in that space. But most churches are so new, and it's all about the dollar bill. And especially listen, I'm going to say this one thing. I'm going to stop talking because I don't want church folk to come after me. But I'm sorry, I go to churches and I'm like, whoa, okay, this church is in the hood. Okay, South Bronx. Okay, wow, this is one of the poorest congressional districts in the city, and I'm sorry, in America. Then you see the pastor, and he's rocking a custom suit with a Bentley parked outside of a storefront church in the poorest congressional district in America. Yeah, that's not a village. That's a cult of personalities, and that's a scam. But I do agree with you that churches have a strong part to play in developing and establishing and maintaining villages. But usually it's these churches that are super old and have been consistent in that community. Not to say new churches can't do it, but they're rare. They're hard to. I've really come across them. Too busy making money to make ends meet. Man, hear that. Oh man, but at the same time, I'll tell you this. That's why I think it's very important that we are very intentional. Those of us who have children in school, even if you have nieces and nephews and cousins, plug the question into the parents' ears. If you're a parent, do this. Ask the principal. Ask your teachers. What do you guys do about these things? Don't just hope, because I'll tell you right now, when you hope for it, it's usually it's not being done. And a great injustice is being done to the children in that school. Right now, it's summertime. I'm about 6 weeks away from the new school year. I'm literally planning every little detail. On last Thursday, I sat with my assistant principals and we built out a calendar, the whole entire calendar from September till next June, down to the dances, down to prom, graduation dates, and everything else in these calendars. And as we're building this calendar, we start asking ourselves, what do we do about this? What do we do about that? And it never stops trying to figure out like all the things that need to be done. But that's the mentality, like really being intentional about creating a school community that addresses the needs of students. Then only that, addresses the needs of parents. Like this year, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm starting a GED program. Why am I doing a GED program? Not for my students, but for the number of parents and siblings that my students say that my mom doesn't have a high school diploma. My brother dropped out. Okay. I don't believe in saying, well, we're going to make sure that you don't follow in the same suit. No. Yes, we're going to educate you so you do well. But you doing well by yourself is not going to help. I want you to do well and graduate from high school with your high school diploma. But if there's an opportunity for me to also support mom and dad or brother and sister to get their GED, or even get some counseling towards being able to potentially go to college, or get a better job, or get a better situation established, then I'm going to do that. That's part of the responsibility. That is part of the responsibility of at least for me in my school, you know. But again, what I'm doing is not special. It's just the way I think, you know, and that's the way I was trained by principals who are better than me, who said, hey, this is what you should be doing. But often there's a lot of school communities where these things are not being done, but no one's asking for them. And if it's not being asked for, then it's not being done, you know. But they can be done. Like literally, like I can pay 2 or 3 teachers once a week to do a GD class, and yeah, it doesn't benefit my test scores, but it benefits families. Questions are flowing. Oh wow. Pink, I think it's Pink Product. I can't really see my eyes going. It says, "You're right, brother, but so much evil in the world nowadays. It's scary to trust people in schools." Yeah, it's scary to trust. But can I tell you how you get over that? Embed yourself in the school. Embed yourself in the school. Because think about this: how many of you guys drop your kids off at school? First day of school. First day of school. First day of new school. You get to the door and some stranger says, "Hey, welcome. We'll take care of them. Come back at 2:30." Okay. Would you go to the grocery store and tell the cashier, "Hey, watch my kid. I'll be right back"? Absolutely not. But we do that all the time at schools, right? And yes, there are rules and policies in place to protect your child in schools. However, what would happen if you truly embedded yourself? You are like, "Hey, principal, I need to meet with you. I need to get to know you. Hey, I'm going to join a PTA. Hey, are there volunteer opportunities here? Even if I only volunteer once a month. Hey, what's in this event? Talk to the teachers. Who are you? What are your qualifications?" You know, one thing I've never seen a parent do in all my years is ask a teacher, "So you're teaching math. What's your qualifications? Where'd you go to undergrad? What's your degree in?" "Oh, okay. You have your master's degree. Okay. All right. What's your favorite subject to teach?" Why not? Why not? You should be interviewing the person who's going to be responsible for your child's education, and you don't even have to know what they're talking about. Let them know that you are paying attention. That's powerful. That's super powerful. You know, you want to build trust? I'll tell you right now, a school that allows you to be part of the community is a community you can trust. A school that keeps you out, like a lot of charter schools do, keep you out, but they don't want you to see what's behind the curtain. Be very careful. Be very careful. But in spaces like that, it's not about your kid. It has nothing to do with your child. It has everything to do with that school community looking good for itself and doing whatever it takes, even if it means kicking your child out to maintain their status quo. And a lot of you guys who are familiar with charter schools know that's the case. Not all charter schools, but a lot of times that's the case. Money's the root of all evil. Without it, we don't survive, sadly. The Bible says the money's the root of all evil. But there's I don't remember what it is, but it's an extension of that passage. Because it's not the money's the root of all evil. It's the lust for money. If you lust after money, if you crave the money, if you put money above everything else, that is evil. Because at the same time, the Bible also says that money answereth all things. If you're sick, you have money, there's a good chance that you will fare better than people who don't have money. If you're hungry, you don't have any money. If you're homeless and you want a home, you don't have any money. You know, the thing is this: when you hold money above people, then it becomes evil. When you make money that thing like that, like Smeagol, whatever that character's name for Lord of the Rings, and you're like, money's your precious. Then guess what happens? Then you will do whatever it takes to get that money, even harm your neighbor, harm your brother, harm your family. That's when it becomes evil. He said, Melrick, you said as a kid, I wore uniforms. Today, designer clothes. Some kids feel more privileged and tease others. So that's very true. Very, very true. In Nigeria, uniform. When I went to military school in Nigeria, uniform. Came to America, and all of a sudden, I remember I remember first came to America, and I knew nothing about sneaker culture or whatever that was. Knew nothing about that. It was like I was just happy I wasn't wearing sandals. Because in Nigeria, we had to wear sandals. And I remember mom took me to buy some shoes for school, and we went to Payless shoe store, and to Payless, and I just thought we're in America. And I remember mom told me to pick some shoes, and I picked some beautiful white, all white high tops. I thought they were the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. And listen, I was in love with them sneakers. Pro Wings. For those of you of a certain age, if you know what the Pro Wings are. And I went to school that first day, and I got hammered with the laughters and the jokes. It was just like, why is everybody laughing at me? Why is everybody making fun of my sneakers? To the point where I hated wearing those things. Yeah, and you're right. That's definitely a problem. I can tell you this about my school. My school, for the most part, kids don't. I mean, yeah, some kids do, but it's funny because a lot of my kids want uniform. My school is now a uniform school. When I took over the school 2 years ago. This is going to be my third year at this school as a principal. And one of the things kids were asking is like, are we ever going to have uniforms? And I was like, you want uniforms? And they were like, they want the option of uniforms, because some of them felt like having uniforms lessened the stress of having to always be fly every day. So they could just throw on the hoodie or the shirt, and it's just uniform. It's school uniform, so no one can say anything about you because you're wearing school uniform. So, which I thought was amazing, and this was coming from the students. So this year is going to be our first year of being uniform optional. And what it is every grade level has uniform shirts, a particular color, and we're going to have other swag, windbreakers and hoodies and things like that. And we're giving this year we're giving every kid, I believe, two or three uniform shirts for free, and then we'll have replacements for very super low cost, just literally at cost. And the goal is for a lot of parents is to eventually be a fully uniform school, but that's like a 3-year process. But parents want it. They're like, it's cheaper, but not only that, it just minimizes the stress. The only thing is shoes, and that's a whole other thing. And I think I perpetuate that because I am a sneaker fanatic. So yeah, my feet is always like crazy. And but at the same time, I also use sneakers as a way to tell my story, because as the kid who had the Pro Wings and got demolished for rocking those sneakers, but I also tell students that I didn't have my first pair of Jordans until I was in my 30s. Until I was in my 30s, and from that point, I could afford to have any pair I wanted. But I also use that as a testament to the work that I've done for my education to be where I'm at, so I can have any pair that I want. But also tell people, like, I'm also very comfortable rocking my Oxfords and rocking my Slides, no name brand, because at the end of the day, it's just shoes. And it's funny, but like is hear that and they connect with that. You're right. When you connect with a child, you definitely build in the future. I agree with that 100%. And that's why I love what I do. I have friends that are teachers, and parents are quick to sue schools and risk their jobs for helping. Pink Prod, you know what? You're right about that. But you want to tell them? Go ahead and sue. I've been threatened many times in 16 years. Threatened many times. And this is what I say. This is my response to those who want to threaten to sue me. I say, number one, you're not suing me. I work for the New York City Department of Education. So you're going to sue me. You're really suing the New York City Department of Education, which means you're suing New York City. And I'm very, 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 very sure to do my job. I do not violate policy. I don't play those games. So if you're suing me, if you're trying to sue me because you're mad at me because I was doing my job, there's a great saying that I love from a rap song. I don't remember what song it was, but the saying is very simple. My lawyers stay down. My lawyers stay down. You're suing me. You're suing New York City, arguably one of the most powerful cities in the country. Good luck with that. But now, if I break the law and do anything like that, then I don't have to worry about you suing me. I'm going to jail Because again, I work for New York City Department of Education. They don't play that, you know. But I think it's very important that if you're doing your job from a good place, from your heart, and not only that, you're following policy. Very, very important. I don't fly off script because again, I'm a black man in this system, and there's a lot of people out there who would love to see me fall. So I always try to make sure I'm doing my job the way I'm supposed to do my job. Being involved in your child's school is quite important. I totally agree. Yes, yeah, definitely. We use uniforms to avoid issues. It works. Listen, 100%, and the kids know that too. The kids know that too. They want uniforms, and it's funny because especially now, our kids are so much more savvy than I was, and a lot of them, they do the math in their heads. They're like, if I have uniform, then I don't have to worry about this. I only got to be fly once or twice a week, or whatever the case may be. Then there's schools out there where there's not, here in New York, there's schools that are 100% uniform. You have no options. The kids complain and whine about it, but then they move on. It's not that big. That's not that big of a deal. Melrick, you said, we have to work harder as they want us to fail. Yeah, very true. From listening to you, I feel they have a good leader at your school. I do my best. Honestly, I do my best. I'll share this with you. I have a my daughter's gonna be 3 years old in October, and my son is a year and a half. And I always ask myself, before I became a father, I would always ask myself, the schools that I taught in, the schools that I worked in as a dean, as an assistant principal, and when I became principal, I didn't have kids yet. I'd always ask myself, am I working in a school or performing in a manner for the school that it would make me proud of having my children in that school? I ask my staff that all the time. Would you be okay with your child being in your class? Would you be okay with your child being in their school? Would you be okay with your child being in this teacher's class and that teacher's class? And I tell them, be honest. And if your answer is no, then what are we going to do about it? So right now, yes, I have little people. My little people, my son and daughter, I work harder at my school because it has to be good enough for them. It must be good enough for them. I'm not one of those people who's going to be like, my child's going to go to a private school while I'm at a public school and my public school sucks, but I'm benefiting monetarily so I can take my kids to a better school. If my kids can be under me in my school, then I'm not doing my job. And I should not be an educator. I should not be a principal. I should not be working. I should not call this my calling, period. Because it has to be amazing for my kids, which means that for the kids who are in my school, it's amazing for them. And I think that's something like that's something that's a constant in my brain. Yeah. I looked at the clock. It is 11:45, folks. I got to be working in the morning. Actually, I got to get up. I got to be up at 4:45 myself, so I can get to the gym by 5. Thank you so much love for joining me this evening in my rant. I love this because you get my brain like really ramping up about what I do, and even thinking about how do I do even do this better. Yes, I am serious. I get up at 4:45, so I can get to the gym by at least by 5:15. Said awesome. How you think that's so important, and as parents we can help. Listen, if you got anything for me this evening, and it was a pleasure talking to you guys too. If you're a parent, you have kids in your school, question your principal, question your teachers. The things that are in your heart that you want to know what they're doing about, ask them. And if they start stuttering or they start giving you runaround, that means you have to get more involved. But at the end of the day, I work for my students and I work for my parents. That's who I work for. And my job is to be the liaison between them and the school system to make sure we have what we need to support them. Okay? And And so that's one advice. But with that being said, I am going to take my butt to sleep. Thank you so much for being with me this evening. I respect, love all of you guys, and I'll see you guys very, very soon again. All right? Be well. Peace.